at the moment, the month of Teshuvah marks, I believe, the Hilula report of Rabbi Moshe Alashkar. Very, very great rabbi in his time. It was a great rabbi that was from Egypt, I believe. Much is chronicled over within regards to him on various different places. Also, he was an author. He was a great rabbi. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Now, I think he was born in the year 1466 and passed away in 1542. Obviously, initially in Egypt and would eventually pass away in Jerusalem. He was prominent among the great contemporary rabbis of those point in time, and his opinions were held in esteem throughout the Levant, let's just say, especially in the West Asian, Eastern Mediterranean areas, respectively. Also, even in Italy. I think there was a letter to Eliyahu Halevi, the teacher of another great rabbi, Rabbi Eliyahu Mizrahi, who was a famous Talmudist of the time, of his specific time. If I'm not mistaken, Rabbi Eliyahu Mizrahi actually lived between the years 1455 to 1525, I believe. And he spoke that his large correspondence maybe deprived him much of the time due to his professional duties. The two following are the most important of his works, which we're going to speak about in a few minutes. Hasagot, which was a critical note, as to say in itself, in which he demolishes the whole dogmatical structure built up, I think, in a Sefer Amunot, and a responsa, I think 121 in number. I think both of these things were printed, the important works were printed in Sabioneta, I believe, maybe in 1553, and I think a separate edition of the Hasagot appeared 3 years later at Pereira, respectively. I think this collection, which reached even very distant Jewish communities at that time, which was very rare because it was very difficult, was of such importance, especially for the geographical names in rabbinic writings, and let's say bills of divorce, respectively. So he was very, very great within regards to that, and can relate over more within regards to him. I believe his Hilula, I read somewhere that it happens to be here, mid Elul territory. I believe he was also part of a generation where Jewish people were expelled from Spain, and he was one that maybe, let's just say, opposed more. He was against Pilpul, let's just say. Hitnaget Pilpul, Hushva Magoto shel Rambam. ובעקבותיו מחשבי התומכים בעיסוק בפילוסופיה. This is actually what's described, just coining Wikipedia's phrase within regards to it. So more can be related within regards to him. I think his father's name actually was Rabbi Yitzchak. So if I'm not mistaken, he was actually born in Spain, I believe. He would learn Torah under another great rabbi from Toledo, Rabbi Shmuel Valianzi, I believe, and together with Rabbi Yaakov ben Habib also. So he was really of a great cluster of rabbanim from great time period. I think Rabbi Yaakov ben Shlomo Ibn Habib is the rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before. He passed away himself in the year 1516 and was born in 1450. I think he'll become a great rabbi in Saloniki towards the end of his days, that we can add on also. He was, there was various other importances within regards to him. Who would learn Arabic, I think, in Sifrei Madar, respectively, and was close to various different great rabbis. It says over here, I'll just state it in Hebrew, Tachumei enyano shama yudvorhim hanogaim letalmud b'kabbalah v'chen hitanyen gam b'matbeot atikim. He would look at old coins such as himself. And obviously, I think in 1493 and 1492, there'll be the Spanish expulsion, which will lead, let's say, wanderings towards North Africa territory. And that has to be pointed out. I think there was issues with pirates at that point in time. In that point, he would spend time in Tunisia. In Tunis, remember, Tunisia would have a great Jewish community of the previous year. And I think it would be for 18 years, if I'm not mistaken, possibly. Actually, he would have correspondence also with Rabbi Abraham Zechuta. Remember, Rabbi Abraham Zechuta was another great rabbi of his time. I think he himself was born, actually also passed away in the year 1515, just the previous rabbi we mentioned about before when we were describing. He was actually born in 1452. Rabbi Zechuto, I think the Zechuto family itself was a very famous rabbinic family. He himself was a Sephardic Jewish astronomer, astrologer, mathematician, a historian, a rabbi, and was, I think, a rabbi in Castile. And he would serve as a royal astronomer to King John II of Portugal before he himself would actually flee to Tunis, respectively. So when he was in Tunis for that long time period itself, he would have a strong correspondence with Rav Zakuto over there. More can be chronicled within regards to his time period. I think, and then eventually he would end up in Cairo, is reported over, as he would be continuing progressing his travelings. I think before he maybe spent a window of time in Libya over there. Could be he was also at one point in time in, but I think come with the year 1522, he would go to Cairo over there, and then he would be there for many years. He would work as a judge, a dayan, in the Beit Din of the Radbaz, the famous Radbaz, and the great rabbi we spoken about before. Give him his full title, Rabbi David ben Shlomo ibn Zimra, very great rabbi, and many people at that point in time was center place of Torah for Jewish law at that point in time. And many of the great places it will correspond with, I think, including Corfu, Saloniki, Kushta, Tzfat, Tunis, Heraklion, really various different places in of itself. Now, I think 3 years before he passed away, he would actually make Aliyah and move to the land of Israel over there. And he'd spend a window of time in Tzfat, one of the four holy cities of Israel. Remember, Tzfat in the 1500s, especially late 1500s, early 1600s, will become a Torah center of Kabbalah over there. And so that is very, very interesting. So that was a time period in of itself. You would be there. And I think at that point in time, there were various different rabbis, most notably, especially Rabbi Yaakov Beirav. So we have to point that out. He had various different halachic rulings, which we can really expound more on, which I recommend everyone to look into. I think he would write, if I'm not mistaken, books, well-depth, let's just say, with regards to connected to the festivals and so on and so forth. He would actually bring on. So I recommend everyone to look at various different rulings he had. Now, his books was actually named. One of them was Gaon Yaakov. This was a book, I believe, that was actually written, if I'm not mistaken, Sefer Shenichtav, Keperush Sefer Arba Torim, V'nota b'ktibat yad. I think Chelek Orachaim Nitfas, I think later on in Tafshin Pei Dalet. Then there was a famous Shut Ma'aram Alshakar, which is Sefer on Shelot, for questions and answers, respectively. Very, very important. There'll be a Sefer HaShgot, which we talked about before, which was also extremely important. And so I would recommend everyone to look at that, various different responsa, respectively. So he was a very famous rabbi of his time, Rabbi Moshe Alashkar. More has been chronicled within regards to him, and was very much living at a time period, where a lot actually did really go on, which we've spoken about on various occasions before. I think we spoke about various different great rabbis, especially from Egypt from the 1500s, from Tzfat from the 1500s. So he was definitely another one of the famous rabbis from that at that point in time. Now, I think he passed away in Jerusalem, if I'm not mistaken. He was 76 years of age at the time he passed away. The great rabbi, the great Posek he was 76 years of age. Remember, Jerusalem at that point in time when he passed away was part of the Ottoman Empire. So we have to add that on also. That's important information. And it just shows the greatness there was. There was such a, let's just say, strong amount of Rabbonim, especially in the 1600 respectively. And much can be said about him. I think we could just state over a few more things. He was great. Some people would actually say that he was one of the most outstanding Talmudic scholars in Jewish history, without a doubt. And his family itself was a prominent rabbinic family in Spain. Rabbi Yitzchak especially was. And I don't think we know 100% sure which city he was actually born in, but apparently he was living in Zamora early on in his life, which we've got to point out. It's actually interesting. The rabbi he would learn of, Rabbi Yaakov ben Habib, was author of the famous Ein Yaakov, which we have to point out also. So that is very, very interesting. And when he lived, I think in Jerusalem, there was, let's say, a controversy started between Rabbi Yaakov Beirav, who wanted to reinstate ancient law of smicha, rabbinical ordination, and Rabbi Levi ben Habib, who opposed it. And Rabbi Moshe Alashkar at first took the side of Rabbi Yaakov Beirav, but then changed his view, finding himself at variance with him, also on other matters. The Chabad website actually gives a whole article, let's just say, within regards to him. He apparently, the amount of response that he would actually write was 121. Which, let's just say, in them we find much information about the problems which confronted the Jewish community in those critical days as a result of the expulsion from Spain, refugee problems, broken families, and the like. And those responses, I believe, were first printed in 1554. And Rabbi Moshe Alashkar also wrote a defense of Maimonides' Guide for the Perplexed, and against the critical notes of Rabbi Shem Tov, Ibn Valakshur, if I'm not mistaken, also. And obviously we mentioned about the 2 other works he did in of itself. And it's reported that he passed away in the year 1542. We're talking about nearly 500 years ago here from time of recording. But obviously his great works that leaving behind really perpetuates him at very, very good stead. So very, very interesting. And friends, we're a community here. We are learning about famous rabbis of yesteryear. If you descend from any of the great rabbis we are speaking about, please send me an email now. I would love to hear more information on the great rabbonim, and there really, really was a lot of yesteryear. If anyone is interested in watching any of these videos, friends, please share these videos also to other people. We're nearing a staggering at the moment 7,500, let's just say, subscribers, which is a phenomenal achievement. So please subscribe to the channel now and join our community as we're going from strength to strength. And if anyone else is interested in watching any of these videos, please share also these videos to other people. And we don't just record videos of great rabbis of yesteryear on this channel. We will also record inspirational rabbis with, let's just say, interesting personalities of modern age. That's another thing another project we are working on here in this great channel in of itself. Working actually on many different projects. We are doing a daily Daf Yomi tidbit. It's inspiration on the Talmud every single day, which is another phenomenal importance of ours, which I can't stress enough. Let's just say how important it actually is. And doing huge amounts and more. We exploring the history of also great rabbis of yesteryear, great happenings of yesteryear that might have happened, and the famous yeshivot and synagogues of from the past. Especially, we'd like to concentrate specifically on the North African countries, Ottoman areas, the Asian places, and the Spanish vicinities, respectively. So we're really getting involved with that. And another thing we also do is we have a special series where we're getting some wisdom, incredible wisdom from a great rabbi of modern era or great Jewish personality of modern era to share and imbue us every day to powerade our days with a bit of Torah and with a bit of brilliance. So many reasons why to join the channel, to subscribe. It's all for free, and to learn more, gain more wisdom. And I think on that note, I wish you all a fantastic Shabbat Shalom, and take care. And be well, friends. Wishing you all a fantastic day. Thank you very much for spending time to watch. Thank you.